Hello, I'm Mr. Cowley. We're here at Glen Elementary School in a 6th grade classroom, and we are discussing the ecology of an Aqua Terra column and the different parts that make up an Aqua Terra column.
Hey, I'm really happy to be here because you guys have done such an amazing job with this Aqua Terra living system. And so what I hope you can do is, we read a lot about science in the books, and some kids are fortunate enough to go outside and look, and some kids are fortunate enough to go in the woods. But you guys are lucky because you got to bring a living system into your classroom. So here's the goal of this part 2. Part 2 is I have a series of questions for you to investigate. What you read in a book, is it true in your living system? So one of the things we're going to talk about are biotic. What does biotic mean?
Living or was living or is going to be living.
Living or has been, like bio means life, and the opposite of life is like abiotic, right? So these are a lot of concepts that you have been studying all year long. Biotic, abiotic, and we'll talk about some of these in just a moment. I'll have Mr. Cowley help me with these. Here's another thing. For example, relationships. The sun provides what?
Energy.
Heat, energy, light. In fact, it's one of the biggest drivers of energy. It's on our whole planet, if not solar system. And so it has something that is called a producer. What's a producer? What can a producer do?
Creates
What does a producer create from sunshine?
food.
Food. The plants are producers. Are there plants in your living system?
Yes.
All right, so if we can add sun to producers, this makes food, something here might eat the food. What's that called?
Consumer.
Consumer. Now, a consumer eats a lot of the food, but there's stuff left over, and then we end up with something new called a decomposer. You guys are doing great. A decomposer. And so the decomposer sometimes turns stuff back into abiotic, and sometimes it turns stuff back into biotic, and it goes around and around. I don't know how many times I've been busy, and I'm hungry, my energy is starting to slow down, and I wish I could just keep working and put my hand by the window. Ah, thanks, I needed that. But I can't do that, why? I'm not a producer, I'm a consumer. So maybe I could hold some carrots out there, let them grow, and chomp on them. Maybe not. So you start talking about things like that. Sun, producer, consumer. Is that going on in your Aqua Terra living system?
Yeah.
I would say yes. And if you can identify that, you're way ahead of the game. I'm going to let Mr. Cowley talk about some of these in just a second. Oh, every plant and animal has adaptations. Adaptations. Now, here's what an adaptation, we talked about this in other lessons. That could be a body part, right? A body part that leads to a behavior, and they have to be in a place, in a habitat that's good. Would it help a fish to have fins if it lived in the sand?
No.
No. But a fish, like in your Aqua Terra system, a fish has fins that it uses to swim, and it happens to live in water. Duh. But even more importantly, these fish, the beta-splendens, which I love, here's a whole magazine about them. The beta-splendens come from Southeast Asia, primarily a country today it's called Thailand. It used to be called Siam. You may know of a cat that comes from Siam called the Siamese cat. But now the country of Siam is no longer called Siam, it's called Thailand. But these fish are sometimes known as Siamese fighting fish, because in the wild and their culture, people would put two of them together and they would fight. You have males, all your males have to be separate because that's their behavior. That's their adaptation. But I'll tell you, here's an adaptation besides fin that's really cool about these fish. Most fish, they're animals, so they need what? They need oxygen, gills. They have gills. Most fish have gills. Water comes in and goes out the gills. And in the gills are blood vessels, and they soak up the oxygen. You take a fish and you put it in water with no oxygen, and it's going to die. But this fish fits in this ecosystem because it has two things. It has another adaptation. It has gills, right, to get oxygen, but it comes from, and you can look this up on YouTube, wild bettas. It comes from swamp. We're talking swamps that you can hardly even see the water. The water there doesn't have a lot of oxygen. So these fish have an adaptation. In their heads, right about here, in their heads, let's see if I can get this fish drawn right. Here's its bottom lip, there's its eye, nostril, and here's its gill cover. And these fish that have these beautiful tails on them and pectoral fins and whatnot, right about here, besides bubbles coming, there's their gills. But inside, if we could look inside, and your worksheet has this, they have an organ that comes up. It's a labyrinth, like a labyrinth. And what they do is they can come up, and maybe you've seen this, I hope you have. They gulp a bubble of air, and they push that air up in there, and now this fish can get oxygen, O2, through its mouth, coming out the gills, or it can swallow it and soak it up in its brain. That's cool. That's an adaptation. It's kind of like saying, hey, I want to hold my breath. Instead of holding your breath, you and I could just take a big gulp and go swimming for 10 minutes. We call that scuba, scuba diving. But these guys can do it. Has anybody ever seen their fish come up and take a gulp?
Yeah.
You see it? That is so cool. That's an adaptation. So, Mr. Cowley, let me let you talk about how there's, if you could, about biotic, abiotic, producers, consumers, decomposers, adaptations, and body parts.
Okay, so we're going to draw and model a diagram of our Aqua Terra column. So I know it looks like a really tall 2-liter bottle, okay? And we're going to divide it up into the Terra and our Aqua, okay? From our Greek and Latin roots, we know that Aqua means water. We haven't done Terra yet, have we?
No.
Terra means earth or land, okay? So go ahead and put your layer of soil, kind of shade it so it's darker, so you know it's soil, okay? What do we have on top of our soil right now? We did it. Okay, we got some seeds. Has anybody sprouted yet? No sprouts yet. So put a couple seeds. I know they're buried, but we're gonna put them out on top. You might want to put a couple of them underneath. What's on the bottom here? The rocks. So go ahead and put some rocks on the bottom. All right. What other parts do we have of our ecosystem here? Yep.
The plants.
We got the plants. Go ahead and put. I know we have 2 different types of plants. We got the moss, right? The Java. Is it Java moss? Is that how you pronounce it?
From the island of Java.
Yeah.
Sumatra.
And then this one. What's this one called? The long, skinny one.
Anacris.
Anacris.
A type of anacris.
Okay. And then you got the moss.
There might be some hair algae in there too.
We got the fish, right?
We got the snail.
All right. Remember my ichthus, right?
Snail.
Remember how to do the ichthus?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Give it a smiley face. What else do we have in here?
Snail.
We got the snail, the mollusk. Good luck drawing a snail, guys.
I'm just gonna draw a swirl.
Swirl.
Just a swirl.
Oh, that's a good looking snail. What else we got? Oh, yeah, the brine shrimp, right?
The shrimpy shrimp.
I don't even know where mine went.
Water, good. I'm glad someone said that. If not, this fish would be amazing. The amazing flying fish. So we got the water. What else we got?
At the top.
At the top?
We have the string.
Oh, we got the string. Okay. So we got the wick kind of coming down here. All right. So that's the connection between the Aqua and the Terra. Anything else any other parts that we've added? Yeah.
We got
Okay, good. That's oxygen up here. Energy has to start someplace. Where does it start? Nuclear power, right? I always say this. I'm always amazed that the sound you're hearing coming out of my mouth is nuclear powered. I got the energy from the sun. I ate the producers. I ate some consumers today too for lunch. I'm using the energy they got from the sun to power me and voice, sound waves right to your ears. It's crazy. Hey, biotic or abiotic? Let's take a guess.
Biotic.
What do you think? Do we have more biotic or more abiotic going on?
Abiotic.
Who thinks? Let's take a little poll. Who thinks we have more abiotic? Raise your hand. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 abiotic. How many people think we have more biotic things? 1, 2, 3. Should be about 5. Yep. All right. 15 versus 5. So on this side, I want you guys to put this title up here. Abiotic. All right. What do you think we're going to put on the other side?
Biotic.
Biotic. Yep. So put biotic over here. All right. So let's go down and label 15 to 5. Let's go from the top down. What do we have that's abiotic starting at the top? So we found all of the abiotic factors that are in our Aqua Terra column. We went from start down. We had the sunlight, providing all of our energy for our ecosystem. Sunlight. Then we went to the oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. And there's even some water that's found up in this air right here. We went down to the soil where we have the rocks and the minerals. We have the plastic container. And then we added a chemical in the water to block the chlorine so our fish could be not swimming in chlorine. So that's our abiotic factors. Now we're going to move on to our biotic factors. All right, so we've listed all of our biotic factors in our Aqua Terra column. Starting from the top down, the first biotic factor we got to were the seeds here in the soil. And we also had a discussion about the humus, or the humus, that is in the soil here. Remember, the humus is all of the dead plants and animal material that are now in the soil. We also have the betta fish, the anacris. We also have the cotton string connecting the two. We have the java moss, the gastropod, the cherry shrimp, the algae, and then all of the different types of microorganisms that live in this water now. And we also added to our abiotic factors, we have the calcium carbonate that is in the water. So the gastropod and the shrimp can make their exoskeletons or their protection. And we also remembered that we also have the temperature and the salt that might be in this water. Remember, we're talking about producers, consumers, and decomposers, right? Next to the organisms here, let's put either a D, a C, or a P. Okay? So go down right now and go ahead and label the organisms as D, C, or P. You might talk to your neighbors, guys. Ask them, hey, what'd you put for the seeds? What'd you put for...
I have 3.
I got some groups here.
What did you put for nitrogen? I'm not doing nitrogen. Oh, you're biotic. See, consumer. I knew that. The gastropod.
Okay, so that was an amazing discussion. You guys are doing really good because you're applying science concepts to your living system. There's one more thing that I really want to share with you. All right, so we've been talking about producers and consumers. Now, on this side, we have plants, right? And those are the what? Producers. On this side, we have animals, right? And those are the consumers, okay? Now, there are some big concepts that these do, how they get their needs. Plants do it through something called, you probably know this, photosynthesis, right?
Yes.
And photosynthesis stands for photo means light, synthesis means to make. So any of these things can make their own food. And the kind of food they make, I just like to call it sugar. Okay? Every time you eat a plant, there's some sugar in it, and that's what keeps us going. Or you eat an animal that's eating a plant. All right, you got the concept? On this side, it's called cellular respiration. And this happens in all animal cells. An animal eats food, chews it up, it goes through its stomach, a lot of different flora and enzymes dissolve it, and we can soak it up. All right, so this is cool. Check it out. Here's what plants need. Plants need CO2 plus water, H2O, and sunlight. And if they get those things, if a plant gets CO2 and water in the presence of sunlight with chlorophyll, chlorophyll, the green part of the plant, it will produce this. It will produce C6H12O6, which is a fancy word for sugar. This is sugar. And it'll have something left over. Guess what's left over?
Sugar.
Oxygen. Plants take in carbon dioxide, water, and give off sugar and oxygen. Ah, this is where it gets very interesting. Watch this. Animals we need sugar. So we need C6H12O6. We need sugar. And do we take in carbon dioxide?
No.
No, because we would die, wouldn't we? What do we take in? O2. And guess what happens? When those come together, guess what comes back? We get some water, and we get some CO2, plus we get energy. Now, isn't this, does anybody see the connection? Do you see the connection between plants and animals? Well, this is our waste, our byproducts. This is our byproducts, and guess who needs these? Plants. And these are their wastes. Guess who needs these?
Animals.
And so in your Aqua Terra living system, this is going on. Because we have sunlight, we have plants, we have animals, and you've already listed we have oxygen and carbon dioxide. What would the world be like without photosynthesis?
We'd be all dead.
We'd be all dead. And what would the world be without cellular respiration?
Plants would be dead. Wait.
Animals would be dead, which means plants would be dead. See how they have to go together? Hey, I saw some pretty cool things out in the hallway. Let's take a closer look at some of your other work.
Okay, so here's our bulletin board, right? We have ecosystems in the water. What's up on the top? The sun, right? Where does the sun put its energy to? On this estuary. Brandon, where at? At the seagrass down here, right? So the seagrass creates its sugar, right? And what's its other byproduct? Sugar and oxygen. Who uses oxygen in the estuary food web? Everything else, right? All these animals, right? We have the zooplankton, we have the large school of fish, and then the eagles, right? So from the sun, we get the energy for the animals and the oxygen for the animals. Now, these guys use the oxygen, right? And then what do they give off in return? They get energy, and what did they give to these guys? Whenever they do their cellular respiration, they give the carbon dioxide right back to them. So these two are in cahoots with each other. What inside of this is doing photosynthesis right now? The plants, right? They're giving off what? Sugar and oxygen to the animals living in here. And the animals are giving off carbon dioxide for these guys, the plants, to work. Does that make sense?
Nice. Rotate them around, nice. Thanks, guys. Good work.
Science is for everybody.